Hi everybody, Dacob here. Welcome back to the Fashion Bunker. We're going to talk about the end of luxury some more today because that seems to be the trend, but it also seems to be the direction in which the world is heading. Welcome to 2024. You might think, thankfully, it's almost over. Don't count your eggs in that basket too soon, Linda, because 2025 might just turn out to be even worse. You know what I mean? Don't tempt fate. But let's talk about what we know thus far. Cosette. We do have an update, and no, this is not the Cosette from Les Miserables, but it is indeed. They call themselves the luxury outlet stout. Now, everything I say in this video is for entertainment purposes only, not rooted in truths or facts. Everything's alleged and just my opinion. While you're at it, subscribe to this ratchet old channel. Let's get to 100K. We are so close. Come on, guys. Okay, listen. About a year ago, I started reporting about Cosette because there was a lot of issues of people purchasing bags from them. Also, Cosette is situated in Australia, in Sydney. Maybe they have other shops as well, but Sydney is their main focus. But people were ordering from the United States, from Europe, from Australia, maybe from China, who knows, like bags from Cosette. Mel in Melbourne, hi Mim, a shout out to Mim, also twice did a sponsored video promoting Cosette and telling people go buy I can't do the Australian accent, or really difficult down under, but you can imagine Mim saying, hey, buy the bags. So people bought the bags. And then a scandal started because some of the people started sending these bags off to independent authenticators, like brands, like companies that claim to be authenticators of luxury items. And you know, I have a big issue with that because I don't trust authenticators and I would never spend my money with them. And I had some authenticators like throwing shade at me last year because I made a video telling all of y'all's don't waste your money on authenticators because that's all for nothing, in my humble opinion, because nobody should have their legal right, nor does anybody have the legal right to tell you that a product is authentic unless that person telling you that the product is authentic is the brand itself that made said product. So, for example, in the case of Chanel, the only company that can really authenticate legally and tell you, hey, we deem this bag authentic, that's Chanel authenticating its own bags. But every third-party authenticator telling you, yeah, this bag is authentic, you're not Chanel. That's just your opinion. So make it very clear in your little authentication leaflet, paperlet, that it's just your opinion that the bag is authentic or not authentic. So some of these authenticators started authenticating these bags that were bought by clients from Cosette, and these third-party authenticators were starting to deliver authentication leaflets that were stating that the bags were not authentic. So a whole wave of drama started. People started en masse sending their bags back to Cosette and asking for their money back because people started claiming that the bags that they got from Cosette were not authentic. Then they started reporting this to the Fair Trade, whatever the company's called in Australia, and that company received hundreds of complaints about Cosette. So Cosette was put under, control or whatever, research, or it was considered, like, okay, hold on a minute. Let the government then, let's do an inquiry about this. Thousands of complaints arrived against Cosette. So then Cosette shut down. Legal proceedings were about to begin. This was all happening a year ago. Now we have an update because I have shocking news for you guys. And the shocking news is thumb up the video and subscribe. And the news is this. Did you thumb up the video yet? Thank you. Subscribe. Thank you. Apparently, the legal proceedings have ended because allegedly the courts in Australia have deemed Cosette innocent. Yeah. Let that sink in. They have cleared them apparently of all charges. So after now 1 year has passed, Cosette is now like free to go. But here's the problem, you guys. There's several problems here. First of all, they threw out thousands of claims. So people who have sent their bags back to Cosette in this past year, and Cosette has not answered. To some, they have given their money back. But I have people writing me saying that they've sent the bag back to Cosette because they've authenticated it with a third-party authenticator. Cosette never answered them. Cosette never gave them the money back, and they also never got their bag back either. So there's that. Now, all of these claims are thrown out of the window because now the court has found Cosette innocent. They have apparently sent off whatever amount of bags they sequestered from Cosette, or were they given the bags by Cosette? The bags that they either sequestered or were given by Cosette, either or, I don't know which case was sent off to the brands, and the brands themselves have deemed them authentic, allegedly. So now Cosette is out of the waters, and you might think, well, hold on a minute, Dacob, you threw so much shade at Mim. You threw so much shade at all of this, blah, blah, blah. Well, hold on a minute. First of all, can we just rewind for a second? What happened to Mel in Melbourne once the ship started sinking last year? She disappeared. For several weeks, she was gone, off the grid. Once she returned, she addressed the situation very briefly, not in a video, mind you, but in a short on her channel that was gone. You know what I mean? Like, it was like, who watches a short anyway? And then not addressing the situation, but taking the money from the sponsorship. Now, hear me out. I said already a year ago, authenticators, you're the ones starting trouble here because don't trust the authenticators, I always say, right? Third-party authenticators, because it's the third-party authenticators that started this whole drama. And people went ballistic and crazy and got scared and started sending the bags back because the third-party authenticators were claiming that the bags were not authentic. But the third-party authenticators were cashing in on the authentication process of thousands of bags. You see what's happening here? Because we know from the fair trade thing in Australia, because it's a government institution, that they have received thousands of complaints. If each one of those thousands of complaints actually were clients that bought a bag and sent the bag off to a third-party authenticator, you do the math. So there's allegedly thousands of bags that have been authenticated by third-party authenticators. Those third-party authenticators cash in every time they authenticate a bag. See? Isn't that a little bit sus? Isn't that a little bit sus? But also, is there corruption in Australia? I'm asking myself. Did Cosette manage to do something under the table with certain people to get them to say, oh, yeah, all is good, all is legit? Allegedly everything. I'm just speculating here. Why am I saying this? Because one of my dear subscribers and friends of the channel delivered receipts, and there's a plot twist. Suddenly, there's a plot twist in this ratchet story. Okay? All right? One of my dear friends and supporters of the bunker, Teresa McGuire, also purchased a bag from Cosette. Isn't that interesting? And let me tell you, yes, Gloria in the chats, escandalo. This is what happened. Teresa writes, I didn't have a chance to comment earlier. This was in the pre-show, by the way. But if you remember, I bought a Bottega Veneta bag from Cosette that an authenticator said was fake. I never got a refund from Cosette. I ended up having Bottega Veneta look into the bag themselves, and Bottega Veneta said that the bag was not authentic. Let that sink in. Teresa went directly to Bottega, and Bottega told her it's not authentic, allegedly. Teresa says, anyway, never got my money back, lost several $1,000s. Then I asked Teresa, I was like, Terry, what made you buy a bag from Cosette? Where did you hear about them from? Terry says, I saw Mel in Melbourne's video. I ended up losing $3,000. Terry says in the chats here, Bottega Veneta destroyed the bag because it was deemed non-authentic. Gotcha, Terry. So Bottega destroyed the bag. You lost $3,000, allegedly. You lost $3,000. And Terry says, back then I'd watch different fashion channels. I don't anymore. You're the only one I watch. After that debacle, I don't trust anyone else. Feel free to share my story. You probably remember me telling you back then, but it's been a year now. Terry, thank you so much for sharing your story with us. But also this, you see what I mean, you guys? when thousands of people complain about something, something is wrong. Okay, now, I don't know what the courts, how the courts in Australia decided that Cosette should be freed of all charges. Like, I mean, is there, by Australian law, are they allowed to have a certain percentage of fakes? You know what I mean? Like, okay, like if you sold 10,000 bags, 2 were fake. Are you like in the clear? Like, do you have to have sold half of those bags as fake in order to really get in trouble? Or is just one fake bag in an ocean of 10,000 bags enough to deem you guilty? That's my first question. Like, what are the standards here? Is just one fake bag enough to ruin a whole legally, to ruin that shop and to make the courts say you're guilty? Or are they allowed to have a ratio, like 1 per 1,000 is okay to be fake? I don't know. I have that question. Then the second question I have is, was somebody paid off to deliver a verdict in favor of Cosette? Allegedly? Question mark. Third point, authenticators. Do we trust authenticators now after all is said and done, after all of this has happened? Do we still trust third-party authenticators? And my fourth point, really important point, is what if, just what if, the fake bags were authentic because the authentic bags were fake? Let me explain. Now, we know that most of these luxury brands today, especially the European ones, they manufacture in China, okay, or in Asia, other Asian countries. Now, and we've seen products. I mean, all the Chanel uniforms, or almost all of their uniforms from their workers, are made in China. The Chanel, the freebies that they give you from the beauty boutiques, they're made in China. I mean, we know. I mean, their bags are made in China. The paper bags, the shopping bags. I don't know about the leather ones. But you see, we know that legally you're obliged, legally you can write made in Italy on a product. If the product was assembled in China, but then you just put the last buttons on in Italy, you could say the product was made in Italy. So here's what I'm saying. A lot of these brands manufacture in China anyway. Now, these factories that manufacture the authentic bags, they might just manufacture a few more and sell them on the corner of some street in New York or Milan. So who's to say that the bag that's not authentic is not authentic? I mean, legally, that bag is authentic only if you purchased it from the boutique that sells that brand. So a Chanel bag is legally authentic if you bought the Chanel bag at a Chanel boutique and you get the Chanel receipt to go with the bag, right? Legally, then that bag is authentic. Technically, though, if the factory that made the Chanel bag that's going to go to be sold in the Chanel boutique, if that same factory also makes a few extra bags on the side with the same leathers used for the Chanel bags, with the same hardware used for the Chanel bags, and then sells those as Chanel bags, instead of for $10,000, instead they sell it for $200 on the corner of a street or online, legally those bags are not authentic, but technically and morally, are they though? Which brings me to this point, to my fourth point, being the end of luxury. These luxury brands have shot themselves in the foot. They got greedy. They got super greedy. They wanted to earn more money. They wanted to maximize their profits. They wanted to augment production. They wanted to make more and more and more and greedier. So let's stop paying workers fairly. Let's not produce just in Europe. Let's go to China where even children can work and nobody cares. If you're paid 1 cent a day, nobody cares. So let's do that because we're greedy. We want more money. And then these factories profit off of that. And then they start, you know what I mean? What they start doing. And now the brands are complaining. Oh, the replicas. Oh, the fake market. Oh, they're flooding everywhere. It's a plague. It's a plague. I'm like, well, honey, you wanted the bicycle. Now pedal. Why did you start manufacturing to begin with outside of Europe? So it's like they were looking for trouble. They were looking for trouble and they got trouble. So now the question is, how long are we going to stand for it? Luxury brands demanding $10,000 for a bag when the same bag of the same material is available for $200. And for all we know, maybe the same factory made it. For all we know, we don't know for sure, but speculating here, alleging. You see, it's the end of luxury because luxury has stopped working according to standards that they themselves have set. They have set the standards high. They have set the standards of we are manufacturing only in Europe. They have set the standards of we are only working with specialized artisans. You know, they show their little promotional advertisement videos of the artisans in white coats, like laboratory coats with gloves, working, like making everything by hand, making the bag that you're purchasing for $10,000 by hand while they're wearing gloves. I mean, if they worked that slow, they would make one bag in a week. And yet these bags are churned out by the gazillions. Just go to the Dior website and check out the Lady Dior. The Lady Dior is the equivalent of the Timeless Classic double flap at Chanel. It's the Dior equivalent of the Timeless Classic at Chanel. It's the Dior equivalent of the Kelly at Hermes. Just go to the Dior website. They have a plethora of colorways, sizes, materials you can order, all readily available. Tons of them. You think one artisan was working with their little glovelets to create the little baglet, and then they have so many? No. No. These brands got greedy. They wanted to make more and more and more, but they wanted you to keep having the illusion that everything is done in an aseptic room, clinically clean, people in white robes working delicately to create a little bag. They want you to believe that, while in the background, what they're doing is they're churning these mofos out like there's no tomorrow. Like me, dairy, I got a dairy allergy, honey. Let me drink yogurt and I'll be churning stuff out like that, okay? That's how they're churning out their bags. And then we get these scandals in Italy. Like Milan was saying, we found out that Dior is buying by a subcontractor bags that are manufactured for €53 or $57, but then reselling them for $2,600. And the workers who made said bag were working in poor conditions and were not getting the fair salary that they deserve. Why is LVMH, who owns Dior, doing that? Money. Greed. And now that they've bit off more than they can chew, and that these other companies and people have woken up and are smelling the coffee, now they're complaining, oh no, we're not making the profits we used to make. Why don't you come back and buy our bags for $10,000? No, Chanel, I'm not going back to buy your bags for $10,000 because they peel at 20 minutes after I start wearing them. A. B. Poor materials used. C. Allegedly. See, you have exponentially raised your prices without giving us any sort of explanation as to why you're raising your costs, except for saying, oh yeah, production costs are going up. I don't believe you. You just keep producing more and more and more. You want to maximize your profits. You have given me no reason to believe that your new prices are warranted. You are upping your prices higher and higher and higher just to see how stupid and gullible we are to keep going with those prices. $10,000 for a bag that you, Chanel, yourself used to charge just a couple of years ago $3,000 for. So the same bag now that used to be costing us $3,000 is now $10,000 plus dollars. But the quality is worse than it used to be, allegedly. And now we're supposed to pay the marked up price for less than what we used to get for a fraction of the cost a couple of years ago from your own same boutique? How stupid do you think we are? Oh, yeah, production costs are going up. No, honey, production costs are not going up that much because other brands are not upping their prices that crazily like you are. Not just Chanel, also other brands. So it's all ridiculous. That's why I'm saying this is the end of luxury. And Cosette is just a side effect. It's just one of those examples. And looky, eggs and cookie, the government or whatever, these courts in Australia, I don't think they can keep up. I don't think they can keep up with what's really going down. Imagine some judge sitting in some courtroom having to decide upon fashion. You know what I mean? Girl, you know what I mean? Like, just, I mean, come on. You know what I mean? And are the right people hired to investigate if said products are really authentic or not? Like, how did we deliver this verdict, Australia? Australia, how did you come to this verdict? How did you get to this verdict? And how can you prove to us, the people who have lost the money because we wanted our money back from Cosette, and a lot of people didn't get their money back from Cosette, like the case of Teresa McGuire, whose bag was purchased from Cosette and deemed non-authentic by Bottega Veneta itself, allegedly. How are we supposed to go about this? So are we going to just close an eye? Oh, well, that bag was fake, allegedly. So, but the others were real, allegedly. So you're fine, Cosette. So Australia said, you just keep doing what you're doing, sweetie. All good, all good. You see, I don't bite for a minute. So a legal verdict was reached. Okay, and at the end of the day, my dears, I always say this, and I will never stress enough to repeat myself. Just because something is legal does not mean it's moral, okay? What is moral and what is legal are two different worlds. Sometimes, if you're lucky, they match. Most of the times, though, no. Something is legal, but it's highly immoral. Most of the times. So just because a legal verdict has been reached doesn't mean diddly squat to me as a person with high moral standards. And honey, the law, most of the time, has nothing to do with morals. So, come for me if you wish, Mim and friends, but, honey, I got receipts and I'm ready, so be careful. Be careful how you tread, because this treadmill is spiky. Cheers. Subscribe. Let's get to 100K. And be merry. Thumb up the video. Love you loads. Never give up on love. Bye.